The world snapped into focus with a jolt, my heart pounding as if I'd been thrown off a cliff. I was no longer in my cramped Seattle apartment, surrounded by empty coffee cups and a flickering laptop screen. Instead, I stood in a dense forest, the air thick with pine and the distant howl of something wild. My body wrapped in unfamiliar furs that smelled of earth and smoke. I was Elliot Vance, 25, a barista with a penchant for late-night fantasy novels until now. Somehow, I'd woken up in the body of Lord Elias Varnholt, the most hated character in Beastheart's Claim, a gritty beastman novel I'd been reading to escape my mundane life. Elias was the cruel, manipulative noble who oppressed the beastman tribes, a villain so vile that every character dreamed of his demise. And now, I was him. The forest around me buzzed with life, but my mind screamed with panic. I clutched at my chest, feeling the weight of Elias's embroidered tunic, his silver dagger at my hip. My reflection in a nearby stream confirmed it, sharp cheekbones, cold hazel eyes, and a sneer I didn't recognize. This wasn't a dream. I was trapped in a story where I was destined to die unless I could change it. The first challenge came faster than I expected. A rustle in the underbrush made me spin, my hand fumbling for the dagger. Out stepped Kale, a beastman warrior from the novel's main cast. At 27, he was a towering figure, his muscular frame barely contained by leather armor, jet black hair falling over piercing blue eyes that burned with distrust. In the book, Kale was the fierce leader of the Lupin clan, a panther shifter whose hatred for Elias fueled his every move. Those eyes now locked onto me, and I felt the weight of his loathing. Lord Varnholt, Kale spat, his voice low and dangerous. What brings you to our lands? Another tax to bleed us dry. My mouth went dry. I wasn't Elias. Not really. But how could I convince him of that? Every word I spoke could dig my grave deeper. I'm not here for trouble. I stammered, raising my hands. I just want to talk. Kale's eyes narrowed, his claws flexing at his sides. Talk. You've never spoken a word that wasn't poison. I swallowed hard, my mind racing. In the novel, Elias would have sneered, thrown threats, or called for his guards. But I wasn't that man. I had to rewrite this story, starting now. I know you don't trust me, I said, forcing my voice steady. But I'm not here to fight. I want to understand your people, your struggles. Kale's stance didn't soften, but something flickered in his gaze. Curiosity, maybe, or suspicion. You expect me to believe that? He growled. After everything you've done. I'm trying to be different, I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Give me a chance to prove it. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming, like a storm about to break. One wrong move. Varnholt, he said, and I'll end you myself. The threat hung heavy, but I saw an opening. If I could win Kale over, I might survive this world. But it wouldn't be easy. The Lupin clan lived in the rugged Cascades, a fictional mirror of Washington's wilderness, where beastmen humans who could shift into animal forms fought for freedom against human nobles like Elias. My new body came with power, wealth, and a castle in the nearby city of Ironvale, but also a legacy of cruelty that made me a target. Over the next few days, I threw myself into learning Elias's world. Ironvale was a bustling trade hub, its cobblestone streets lined with merchants and beastman laborers who glared at me as I passed. My castle, a looming stone fortress, was filled with advisors who expected me to uphold Elias's ruthless policies. I played the part issuing vague orders, dodging their schemes while secretly studying the novel's lore, piecing together how to undo Elias's damage. Kale, meanwhile, haunted my thoughts. In the book, he was fiercely loyal, protective, and though it was barely hinted at, touchingly lonely. His clan revered him, but his heart carried the weight of their suffering. I caught glimpses of him in Ironvale's markets, negotiating for supplies, or arguing with human guards. Each time our eyes met, I felt a pull, something beyond the story's script. Was it my imagination? Or did his gaze linger longer than it should? One evening, I found him alone by a riverbank outside the city, his panther form sleek and powerful as he drank from the water. I approached cautiously, my heart hammering. "Kale," I called softly, staying back. He shifted back to human form, his expression unreadable. "What do you want, Elias?" he asked, his voice softer now, almost weary. "To help," I said, stepping closer. "I know you don't believe me, but I want to change things. The taxes, the laws. I am working to undo them." He laughed, a bitter sound. "You think a few words can erase years of pain?" "No," I admitted, "but I'm asking you to watch me try." For a moment, he said nothing, his blue eyes searching mine. Then he turned away, disappearing into the forest. But I'd seen a crack in his armor, a chance to build something new. As days turned to weeks, I began dismantling Elias's oppressive policies. I lowered taxes on beastman lands, redirected funds to their villages, and freed prisoners Elias had jailed unjustly. My advisors were furious, whispering of rebellion. But I pressed on, driven by a need to prove I wasn't the villain they thought. Yet every step felt like walking a tightrope. The beastmen distrusted me. The nobles plotted against me. And Kale watched me like a hawk, waiting for me to slip. One night, a festival lit up Ironvale, lanterns glowing against the starry sky. I slipped away from the castle, drawn to the music and laughter in the beastman quarter. There, I found Kale, his guard down for once, laughing with his clan. He spotted me, and the air shifted. "You're persistent," he said, approaching me. "I'm trying to be honest," I replied, meeting his gaze. "Can we talk? Just us?" He hesitated, then nodded. We walked to a quiet alley, the festival's noise fading. Up close, I saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight of leadership. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "What's in it for you?" I wanted to tell him the truth, that I wasn't Elias, that I was a stranger in this world, fighting to survive. But instead, I said, "I see you, Kale. Your strength, your pain. I want to make things right, not just for me, but for you." His breath hitched, and for a moment, the world felt still. Then he stepped back, his walls up again. "Prove it," he said, and walked away. But I wasn't giving up. Not on him, not on this world, and not on the chance to rewrite my fate. The days grew colder in Ironvale, the Cascades peaks dusted with snow, mirroring the tension building in my chest. I was still Elliot inside, but Elias's shadow clung to me, a constant reminder of the hatred I'd inherited. Every move I made to reform the city's laws, freeing more beastman prisoners, redirecting trade profits to their villages, stoked the nobles' anger and deepened the beastmen's suspicion. Kale remained my biggest challenge. I'd catch him watching me during council meetings, where I argued against the nobles' greed. His blue eyes held a storm of emotions: doubt, curiosity, maybe something softer. But he kept his distance, and I didn't push. Not yet. I knew trust was earned, not demanded, especially with someone who'd suffered under Elias's rule. One morning, a crisis hit. A fire had ravaged a Lupin clan village, leaving dozens homeless. The nobles dismissed it, blaming the beastmen's carelessness. But I saw an opportunity. I rode out to the village, ignoring my advisor's protests. The devastation was gut-wrenching: charred homes, families huddled under makeshift shelters, their eyes hollow with loss. Kale was there, coordinating relief, his face etched with fury and grief. "Elias," he said, spotting me. His voice was ice. "Come to gloat." "No," I said, dismounting. "I brought supplies: food, blankets, tools, whatever you need to rebuild." He stared at the wagons behind me, loaded with crates. Why? He asked, his voice softer but still sharp. What's your angle? No angle, I said, meeting his gaze. I want to help. Tell me what to do. For a moment, he looked like he might refuse. Then he nodded curtly. Follow me. We worked side by side, unloading supplies, hammering beams, and passing out food. The beastmen watched me warily, but Kale's presence kept them calm. His strength was mesmerizing, shifting into his panther form to haul heavy logs. Then back to human, sweat gleaming on his skin. I caught myself staring, my heart racing in a way that wasn't just fear of this world. As night fell, we sat by a fire, the village quiet except for the crackle of flames. You surprised me today, Kale said, his voice low. I didn't expect this. I'm not who you think I am, I said, the words slipping out. I wanted to tell him everything about transmigration, about Elliot, but I stopped short. I'm trying to be better. He studied me, the firelight dancing in his eyes. I don't trust you, Elias, but I'm starting to wonder. That wonder was enough to keep me going. Back in Ironvale, I doubled down on reforms, pushing through laws to protect beastman rights. The nobles fought back, led by Lord Cedric, a sly, silver-haired man who'd been Elias's ally in the novel. Cedric cornered me one evening in the castle's halls, his smile venomous. You're unraveling everything Elias built, he hissed. The beastmen will never bow to you now. Good, I shot back. I don't want them to bow. I want them free. His eyes narrowed. You're not Elias. I don't know what's gotten into you, but it ends soon. The threat chilled me, but I couldn't stop. I started meeting Kale in secret, sharing plans to rebuild the village and reform Ironvale's trade laws. Our talks grew longer, straying from politics to stories of his clan, his love for the forest, the way it felt to run as a panther under the moon. I told him about my childhood, not Elias's, but mine, carefully framed as dreams or memories. He listened, his guarded demeanor softening. One night, under a sky blazing with stars, we sat on a hill overlooking Ironvale. You're not like the others, Kale said, his voice barely above a whisper. You see us. Why? My throat tightened. I wanted to say it was because I wasn't Elias, because I'd read his story and ached for his pain. Instead, I said, because you deserve to be seen. He turned to me, his face inches from mine. The air crackled with something unspoken, something dangerous and beautiful. Then he pulled back, standing abruptly. Don't make me regret this, he said, and left me alone with my racing heart. But trouble was brewing. Cedric's spies followed me, reporting my meetings with Kale. Whispers of treason spread, and the beastmen grew restless, torn between hope and fear that I was playing them. One evening, as I returned to the castle, an arrow grazed my shoulder, fired from the shadows. I stumbled, blood soaking my tunic, and heard Cedric's voice in my mind. It ends soon. I survived, but the attack was a warning. I had to act faster, prove my loyalty to Kale and his people before the nobles or my own past, as Elias destroyed everything. The arrow wound throbbed, a constant reminder of how close I'd come to death. I hid it from Kale, bandaging it myself in the castle's dim corridors. But the pain fueled my resolve. I wasn't just fighting for survival now, I was fighting for a future where Kale and his people could live without fear. And maybe, just maybe, for a place by his side. Ironvale was a powder keg. The nobles, led by Cedric, spread lies that I was conspiring with the beastmen to overthrow the city. The beastmen, meanwhile, were split. Some saw my reforms as genuine, others as a trap. Kale was caught in the middle, his clan looking to him for answers. I needed him to believe in me, not just for the story, but because his faith was becoming my anchor in this world. I sought him out at dawn, finding him in a clearing where the Lupin clan trained. He was sparring, his movements fluid as he shifted between human and panther, his claws glinting in the early light. When he saw me, he paused, wiping sweat from his brow. "You look like hell, Elias," he said, eyeing my pale face. "Rough night," I said, forcing a smile. "Can we talk?" He led me to a quiet grove, his expression guarded but softer than before. I told him about the attack, leaving out Cedric's name to avoid escalating things. "Someone doesn't want me changing things," I said, "but I'm not stopping. Not for them. Not for anyone." Kale's jaw tightened. "You're playing a dangerous game. If you're lying to us." "I'm not," I cut in, stepping closer. "Kale, I swear, I'm doing this for you. For your clan. For a world where you don't have to fight to exist." His eyes searched mine, and for the first time, I saw trust flickering there. "If you're telling the truth," he said, "you're risking everything." "I know," I whispered. "It's worth it." The moment stretched, charged with unspoken feelings. Then he reached out, his hand brushing my arm, a fleeting touch that sent warmth through me. "Be careful, Elias," he said, and walked away. But careful wasn't an option. Cedric's schemes were closing in. At a council meeting, he presented forged documents claiming I'd sold Ironvale's secrets to the beastmen. The nobles erupted, demanding my arrest. I fought back with evidence of my reforms trade records. Freed prisoners, but the damage was done. The city was fracturing, and I was running out of time. I met Kale that night in a hidden cave outside Ironvale, a place he'd shown me during one of our talks. The air was damp, the walls glowing with faint moss. "Cedric's framing me," I said, pacing. "If he wins, everything we've done collapses." Kale's face was grim. "My clan's ready to fight, but we need proof. Something to turn the city against him." I nodded, my mind racing. Elias's memories, buried in my head, held Clue's secret ledgers in the castle where he'd documented his own schemes. If I could find them, I might expose Cedric's lies. "I'll get it," I said, "but I need your help." For the first time, Kale didn't hesitate. "Tell me what to do." We planned a risky infiltration. Under cover of night, we slipped into the castle, Kale in panther form, silent and lethal. My heart pounded as we navigated dark halls, avoiding guards. In Elias's study, I found the ledger's proof of Cedric's corruption. Not mine. But as we prepared to leave, footsteps echoed. Cedric's voice rang out, cold and triumphant. "I knew you'd betray us, Elias." Guards surrounded us, swords drawn. Kale growled, ready to fight. But I stepped forward, clutching the ledgers. "You're the traitor, Cedric," I said, holding them up. "These prove you've been stealing from Ironvale for years." His smile didn't waver. "No one will believe a villain like you." He signaled the guards, and chaos erupted. Kale fought like a storm, his claws a blur, but there were too many. I grabbed his arm, pulling him toward a hidden passage I'd found in Elias's memories. We escaped, barely, the ledger still in my hands. Outside, panting in the forest, Kale turned to me, his eyes blazing. "You didn't run," he said, almost in wonder. "I told you," I said, breathless. "I'm in this with you." For a moment, we stood there, the night wrapping around us. Then he pulled me close, his forehead against mine, his breath warm. "Don't make me lose you," he whispered. My heart stopped. This wasn't in the novel. This was real, raw, and terrifying. Before I could respond, he released me, and we ran. The ledgers our only hope to save Ironvale and each other. The ledgers burned a hole in my satchel as Kale and I hid in the Lupin clan stronghold, a network of caves deep in the Cascades. The air was thick with tension. Kale's people were on edge, ready to fight but wary of trusting me. I couldn't blame them. Elias's legacy was a poison that lingered, and even my actions couldn't fully erase it. But Kale's faith in me, fragile as it was, kept me grounded. We need to get these to the council, I said, spreading the ledgers on a stone table. They detailed Cedric's embezzlement, his secret deals with rival cities to weaken Ironvale. If we expose him, the nobles will turn. Kale's eyes were dark, his voice low. And if they don't, you're risking your life, Elias. I met his gaze, my chest tight. I'm not Elias. Not really. I'm someone who wants to fix this. For you. He frowned, confusion flickering across his face. But there was no time to explain. The clan scouts reported Cedric's forces massing near Ironvale, spreading lies that I'd allied with the beastmen to seize power. We had to act fast. Kale rallied his warriors, and I prepared to face the council. The plan was simple but brutal: present the ledgers, demand a public trial, and hope the truth outweighed Cedric's influence. As we rode back to Ironvale, Kale at my side, I felt the weight of his trust and something deeper, unspoken, pulling us closer. The council chamber was a viper's nest. Cedric stood at its heart, his silver hair gleaming under torchlight, his smile smug. The nobles watched me like hawks, their loyalty split. I held up the ledgers, my voice steady despite the fear clawing my gut. Cedric's been stealing from you, I said. These prove it: dates, amounts, names. He's the traitor, not me. Murmurs rippled through the room. Cedric laughed, smooth and dangerous. Forgeries by a desperate man. You've lost, Elias. But I'd planned for this. I called forward a merchant, one of Cedric's own allies, who'd seen the ledgers and feared exposure. Trembling, he confirmed their authenticity. The room erupted, nobles shouting, some demanding Cedric's arrest. For a moment, I thought we'd won. Then Cedric played his trump card. If I'm a traitor, he said, what of him? He pointed at Kale, who stood at my side, a beastman in our council, plotting with Elias to destroy us. Seize them both. Guards lunged. Kale shifted, his panther form a blur of claws and fury. But I grabbed his arm. We can't fight here, I hissed. We fled, the ledgers still with us, as Cedric's lies turned the city against us. We hid in an abandoned mill outside Ironvale, the air heavy with dust and despair. Kale paced, his anger palpable. I should have killed him, he growled. No, I said, stepping close. We do this right, or we lose everything. He stopped, his eyes locking onto mine. Why do you care so much? He asked, his voice raw. Why risk it all for us? My throat tightened. I wanted to tell him I wasn't Elias, that I'd fallen into this world and into him, that every choice I made was to keep him safe. Instead, I reached for his hand, my fingers trembling. Because you're worth it, I said. His breath caught, and then he was kissing me, fierce and desperate, like he'd been holding back for too long. I kissed him back, my heart pounding, the world fading until it was just us. When we pulled apart, his eyes were soft, vulnerable. Whatever you are, he whispered, I'm with you. But our moment was cut short. Scouts burst in, breathless. Cedric's forces were marching on the Lupin clan's stronghold, claiming I'd kidnapped Kale to start a war. We had no choice, we had to fight, not just for Ironvale, but for the future we'd barely begun to imagine. As we prepared, I clung to the ledgers and to Kale, knowing the battle ahead could break user forge something unbreakable. The Cascades loomed dark and unforgiving as we rallied the Lupin clan for war. Cedric's Armanoble's guards and hired mercenaries marched toward the stronghold, their torches a grim constellation against the night. Kale and I stood at the heart of the clan's defenses, the ledgers hidden in a cave, our only proof of the truth. My shoulder ached from the old wound, but Kale's presence beside me was a fire that kept me steady. We end this tonight, Cale said, his voice low, his hand brushing mine. His trust was a lifeline, but I felt the weight of what we could lose, not just the battle, but each other. The clan fought with a ferocity that shook me. Beastmen shifted into wolves, bears, and panthers, their roars echoing through the forest. I wielded Elias's dagger, my barista instincts useless, but my resolve unbreakable. Cale was a force of nature, his panther form tearing through enemies, protecting his people and me. Cedric's forces pushed us back, their numbers overwhelming. In the chaos, I saw him, standing on a ridge, his smile cold. He thought he'd won. But I'd learned something from Elias's memories, a hidden trail that could flank his army. I grabbed Cale, shouting the plan over the din of battle. He nodded, rallying a small group of warriors. We moved fast, slipping through the forest, my heart pounding as we circled behind Cedric's lines. At the ridge, we struck, taking out his commanders and sowing chaos. I fought with everything I had, driven by the image of Cale's face, his kiss, his whispered words. We couldn't lose this. The tide turned. The clan pushed forward, Cedric's forces crumbling. I faced him in the clearing where it all began, the same place I'd first seen Cale. It's over, I said, holding the ledgers. The truth's out. Cedric lunged, his sword gleaming, but Cale was faster, tackling him in panther form. Guards seized Cedric, and the battle slowed, the air thick with the scent of blood and pine. The clan had won, but at a cost, lives lost, wounds deep. In the aftermath, we presented the ledgers to Ironvale's council. The truth of Cedric's betrayal spread, and the nobles, fearing rebellion, backed my reforms. Beastmen gained seats on the council, their voices finally heard. Cale stood beside me, his presence a quiet strength. One evening, as the city rebuilt, we returned to that clearing. The sunset painted the sky gold, just like the image I dreamed of when I first arrived. Cale took my hand, his eyes soft. You changed everything, he said. Not just for us, but for me. I smiled, my heart full. I didn't do it alone. He pulled me close, and we stood there, the forest alive around us, the future uncertain but ours to shape. I wasn't Elias. Not really. But I'd become something more, someone who'd fought for love, for justice, and for a world where no one was erased. And with Cale by my side, I knew I'd found my place, not just in this story, but in his heart.